He built this massive $100 billion empire, but I bet you've probably never seen his face on a magazine cover. While some billionaires are out there chasing headlines, Ratan Tata was busy cultivating silence. So today we're going to deconstruct a completely different kind of power, quiet power, and the man who absolutely mastered it. Think about it. In our world, power usually looks like this stuff on the left. It's loud, it's flashy, it's all about the personal brand. But Ratan Tata, he operated entirely from this other playbook, the one on the right. And he proved without a shadow of a doubt that you don't need to be the loudest person in the room to be the most powerful. And listen, don't make the mistake of thinking this quiet approach doesn't get results. The Tata Group generates over $100 billion in revenue every single year. I mean, that's not just big. That's bigger than the entire economy of a lot of countries, all built on a foundation of integrity, not hype. So that's the big question, right? How did he pull it off? How did this man who actively avoided the spotlight become one of the most powerful and, more importantly, respected forces in global business? All right, let's get into it. See, to really get who he was as a leader, you've got to understand the man himself. His entire philosophy, his whole approach, it wasn't dreamed up in some boardroom. It was forged in his childhood, where he learned that the name Tata wasn't about privilege, it was about responsibility. Let's just quickly walk through the key moments that made him who he was. It starts back in the 1940s with his parents' divorce, which back then was a huge scandal. But it taught him a lesson that would stick with him forever. What other people think doesn't matter. What you do does. Then in '59, he makes this really interesting choice to go to Cornell. In the '60s, instead of taking a cushy office job, he insisted on working on the factory floor, learning the business from the ground up. By 1991, he was ready. You could almost call what he learned growing up with his grandparents the Tata household philosophy. And it was actually pretty simple, but incredibly powerful. Money is just a tool for responsibility. The whole vibe was about duty, discipline, and doing the right thing, not about showing off with fancy cars and big parties. And that became the bedrock for everything that came next. And this right here, this is absolutely crucial. He didn't go to business school to learn spreadsheets and profit margins. He went to engineering school because he wanted to understand how to build things, how systems work. He was obsessed with creating things that would last, not just chasing a quick buck. Okay, so we've got the foundation, duty, systems thinking, but how did that actually work when he was in the hot seat, making these massive billion-dollar decisions? Let's take a look at how he put those values into practice to build a truly global empire. So picture this. It's 2008. The entire global economy is collapsing. And that's when Ratan Tata steps up and says, hey, we're going to buy Jaguar Land Rover. The world's reaction was basically this. They thought he was nuts. The consensus was that he was about to run this iconic British brand straight into the ground. But what he did next, nobody saw it coming. Instead of coming in swinging an axe, slashing costs, and firing everyone, he focused on stewardship. He acted more like a caretaker. He trusted the management that was already there, he poured money back into the company, and he showed deep respect for the brand's history. His goal was to protect its legacy, not just squeeze it for cash. And the results of that approach? Well, Jaguar Land Rover didn't just survive. It absolutely exploded. It became one of Tata Motors' most profitable parts, bringing in over $30 billion a year. It was the perfect proof that his whole ethics-first thing, it wasn't just nice, it was a killer business strategy. But here's the thing. It wasn't just about buying fancy global brands. While he was doing that, he never forgot about his mission back home in India. He launched the Tata Nano. Why? Not to make a huge profit, but to solve a real, everyday problem for millions of Indian families, giving them a safer, more affordable way to travel. So what's the takeaway here? Tata's success wasn't random. It wasn't just a bunch of lucky breaks. There was a system. A consistent philosophy he followed, a clear framework that we can break down into what I'm calling the Tata playbook. And it really boils down to these four things. First, let your work, the quality of what you do, be your brand, not your social media feed. Second, play the long game. Build for the next generation, not just the next quarterly report. Third, understand that your people are your greatest asset, not just a number on a spreadsheet. And finally, holding it all together, a rock-solid zero-tolerance policy for corruption, period. And that whole people-first thing, it wasn't just some nice corporate slogan. Look at the data.
Employee turnover, the rate at which people leave the company, is incredibly low at Tata compared to everyone else. And it's simple, really. When you treat people with respect and invest in their future, they give you their loyalty in return.
But this might be the most radical part of the whole story. Just look at where the profits actually go. A staggering 65% of the Tata Group's profits go directly to charitable trusts. They fund everything from hospitals to schools. He basically saw the company's wealth as belonging to society, and he was just its temporary guardian. All right, so this all leads us to the final and maybe the most powerful lesson from his life and his incredible career. What is the ultimate takeaway here? It all comes down to this one idea, something he truly lived by. For him, the final score of a life wasn't about what you managed to accumulate for yourself. It was about what you contributed back to the world. It was never about what he could get. It was always about what he could give. So I want to leave you with this thought. Ratan Tata proved that silence, when you pair it with real integrity and a deep sense of purpose, can build something truly monumental. In a world that is just so full of noise, that's constantly screaming for our attention, his legacy kind of forces us to ask ourselves a different question. What will your silence build?